something that just is not a fun experience. I think at this point, I don't think it's a fun experience for anybody, whether you love it, whether you hate it, whether you whatever. That's the WNBA. It was funny because we were actually ahead of just the take avalanche that happened this week. If people go back and listen to the podcast last week, we were obviously coming on last Saturday, the day of the season debut. Caitlin Clark, Angel Reese, Chicago Sky, Indiana Fever, and there was a flagrant foul at one point in the game. And I asked you, I said, J-Mart, I said, listen, I don't have the energy to make this into something. It feels like absolutely nothing to me. Well, fast forward, and by the way, we also referenced, but I guarantee all the big talk shows come Monday, they're going to have plenty. We didn't say, not that they're going to have plenty to say, that they're going to make this into something that it isn't. Well, fast forward. We had, let's see here. We had obviously, all sorts of, let's just be honest, racial undertones about Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese. We had the RG3 versus Ryan Clark thing, which dragged on. We also had this. Don't let this get lost in the shuffle. We had a report of racist taunts in the Indiana Fever arena that the Chicago Sky later confirmed they never heard. The WNBA still decided to release a statement condoning racism, even though no one on the Chicago Sky heard anything to do with racism in the arena. So basically, there was a rumor on the internet that the WNBA ran as fact. I could go on and on. By the way, and then after that, there's the whole, you guys are manufacturing this. And then Angel Reese, of course, she's sharing TikTok clips saying, go get Caitlin Clark. It was, I think, the worst version of WNBA coverage. I'll just say it, and I don't want to take away from your take. I just think the league is just a flat-out embarrassment. I'll just shut up. I'm talking too much. I think the league is nothing short of a flat-out embarrassment, and I'll let you kind of take this wherever you'd like.
So there's a lot to get to, and luckily we have plenty of time. Nothing that you just said is wrong. It's not a league. It's Jerry Springer. It's not a league.
But at least Jerry Springer knew it was staged. This is just – it's Jerry Springer without the irony. You know what I'm saying?
So, yes, I mean, that is true. I mean – I knew some people that were booked on Jerry Springer back in my pro wrestling days. Well, no, I mean, pro wrestlers are booked for reality TV all the time because they know how to fake it. And when Springer, a lot of stuff, yes, some of the things that he would do, he would pay guys to come in or pay people to come in and just air out the most disgusting stuff that was actually happening. But some of the time it wasn't legit. And I think that, so I tried to defend during the week. I tried to defend the idea that the WNBA was not stoking a racial conflict, but was instead profiting off of one, or just kind of staying hands off a little bit with one that already existed. And I was trying to act look, it really isn't a racial thing where Angel Reese and Caitlin Clark. Remember last year I talked about how Angel Reese was drifting off of Caitlin Clark like they were race cars.
No doubt.
And that Angel Reese knew what she was doing and that she was actually savvier. And that the pro wrestler like Gene and me said they're working off each other because they're both kind of generating stuff, and Angel Reese's name is a lot bigger now because of what she did and all this other stuff. But as more time has passed, and as you go back and you watch this, and even dating back to pointing at her ring, at her fingers back in the Iowa LSU days and all of these things, no, actually there's more than just a little bit going on here. And the league is more at fault than I wanted to admit. I just wanted to think that they were just kind of going to let this play out, but that they weren't booking this thing almost like you're booking a wrestling territory so that you can make the most money. Because the most marketable matchup that you can have in the WNBA in history of women's basketball is going to be Caitlin Clark versus Angel Reese. So that becomes your day one game and all this. And the argument was, well, you did that to stoke racial conflict. And I said, no, you did it because they're arch rivals and all this other stuff. The race thing notwithstanding, it's just the vitriol between these two. But here is the problem, and this is what I think has been revealed during the course of this week more so than ever before. There is a racial conflict here. And it is Angel Reese who has she's got some serious issues when it comes to this and the way that she feels about Caitlin Clark that are not related just to basketball, not just related to jealousy and envy. All of those things they're basically like kindling on this fire that because this other thing is true of Caitlin Clark, all the rest of it becomes worse. And I think that the biggest thing that we have seen this week is that there are a whole lot of other people that feel similarly to Angel Reese, both in the media and in the WNBA itself. And that's just a shame. Like, that's when this has jumped the shark from being a pretty good rivalry that you can do something with if you're the WNBA to something that if you have any dignity or self-respect whatsoever, if you're the WNBA, you shut this down because you don't want to exist solely for this. And now, if you stay silent and you continue to let this kind of thing go on and you let other things that we can talk about with Griner and Cheryl Swoops and all this other kind of stuff that's come through continue, then not only are you aiding and abetting, but you're in effect facilitating. You're in effect making sure that this is a thing. And I will call a little bit later, but I'll just do it right now. I'm done. Like, I did not think that this whole deal was going to last anyway. They had lightning in a bottle with Caitlin Clark, but what else are you going to get? I was excited to see what Paige Beckers could do because I enjoyed watching her at Connecticut as well. And, you know, Juju Watkins in the future, hopefully coming back from the injury and things like that. Like, you have some other players in this league. But the WNBA decided that if it was going to be Caitlin Clark that made them all stars and made them all money, they were just not going to allow that. They have made this so toxic, so gross, that I'm going to go back to doing what I've done my entire life up until Caitlin Clark started playing basketball. Not giving a crap about the WNBA. I am boycotting this league. I'm not watching her either. Like, if they want to sell this, they could sell it to somebody else. The racial grift has to stop in this country, and it definitely has to stop in sports. And the WNBA, I didn't need it before. I don't need it now. Caitlin Clark's already made some money, and she's still going to be marketable whether or not she's playing in the WNBA or somewhere else. So I'll quietly follow a box score if I care, but you will not catch me tune in to a WNBA game again because that's what they've begged me to do. They have asked me, Aaron, repeatedly, don't watch our league because of X, Y, and Z. They have stuck it in our face so many times at this point that they're going to get what they wanted, which is the game's not that good anyway. I don't need to watch this. I'm not going to watch this.
By the way, speaking of the game not being very good, I'm in Vegas this weekend just with some family. I was in a sports book this afternoon. There was nothing else on other than Fever and Liberty. It was a tough watch. And, you know, it really is. And it's like, you know, and this is supposed to be the defending chip, whatever. Lot to peel back from what you said. I think my biggest takeaway is something that I know that I talked about last year, and it's something that you just hit on, is that, listen, the racial stuff is gross. I think that essentially it is amazing to me, and maybe it's something we discuss on the other side of the break, how they essentially cannot market anything when there is not there's not a racial component to it. Like, it's funny you mentioned Paige Beckers. Obviously, me being a UConn guy, my mom's a UConn alum.
Right.
She literally asked me today, she's like, how come I feel like I haven't heard anything about Paige since she got into the league? And I was like, there is no story when somebody isn't trying to fight Caitlin Clark. It's just a fact. And the thing that stands out to me is exactly what you said, and I remember saying it last year, is that, to me, if players want to hate her, it sucks, but it is what it is. The embarrassing thing to me is the WNBA's leadership and their inability to wrangle this, to get it under control, or even to acknowledge it's a problem. And I remember saying this last year is players want to hate her. Okay, I don't like it. I think it's ridiculous. I don't think it makes sense that this is a situation where where she's obviously making them all money and they want to complain, but the league does have like a responsibility to protect her, and it didn't feel like they were doing it last year. And I only bring it up to solely say that when you look at this year, when you look at this moment in time, it is wild to me that they had even the most glasses half full want to defend the WNBA would say, well, Caitlin Clark came in right out of Iowa. Nobody could have seen how big it was, blah, 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 this and that. And so fast forward to this year, and the idea that they dealt with this for a year, the entire last year was basically just the worst form of toxicity, and there was, there were positives because of TV ratings increases, but there was a lot of negativity too. And they had a whole offseason to figure out how to put their arms around this, how to embrace Caitlin Clark, what she's done, and just deal with the discourse that comes around it. And literally in 1 week, it just one game, completely went off the rails to the point that, we had the situation that we had in the game, but then again, all the stuff that follows it. I understand you can't control what the media is saying, but what you can control is not sprinting to condone a racist activity that no one can confirm even happened. And then the counterpoint to that is, oh, by the way, there were probably 2 or 3 racist things that did happen that you've chosen to ignore. And you mentioned it, there's video of Brittany Griner where pretty clear, people are trying to now say that she didn't say what we think she said, but basically there is an insinuation of F that white B. Right. By the way, Brittany Griner was caught on camera cursing out the refs today during a sideline interview, so that was a lovely addendum to that. So, I guess I've gone long. Again, I'll toss it back to you, but it is amazing to me that with a full offseason to kind of wrap your arms around it, see how big things had gotten, we're back to the same playbook that led to so much toxicity last year where, again, you're condoning or you're shouting down actions that we cannot confirm happened while completely ignoring other actions that we do know did happen.
Yep, that's exactly right. Let's take a break, though, just because I looked at the clock. But we'll come back. We've got plenty more on this topic. I also think that we need to call out Adam Silver.
Sure.
If the WNBA only exists because the NBA permits it to, then Adam Silver needs to show a spine for the first time in his life and actually say, hey, this needs to stop. Like, behind closed doors, say, we're not going to be known for this. Like, we're going to be known for the product. We're not going to be known for this sideshow. We're not going to be known for the tabloid. We're not going to be the National Enquirer. We're not going to be this. We're going to be better than this, or we're not going to exist at all. If they exist solely because the NBA permits it, then Adam Silver should have some kind of power. If the WNBA brass wants to sit on their hands, then Adam Silver needs to show a spine. And I know, he has that look of kind of an extraterrestrial. Maybe he doesn't have the same kind of vertebra that other humans do. And based on some of the things that he's done in this last handful of years, I wouldn't put it past him to not have a spine. But somebody needs to show up behind closed doors and say, this ain't okay. This is going to end badly. Like that game that comes up on, June 7th or whatever, the next time that the Sky play the Fever, another game I'm not going to watch. I'm going to stick to exactly what I said earlier in this segment. You think something's not going to happen? You're out of your mind. You got Angel Reese on the sidelines clapping after Caitlin Clark is getting fouled multiple times last season and this season. This is going to get worse, and something really bad is going to happen here. And it's being stoked by everybody, seemingly. Somebody needs to look out for the betterment of a league, at least show that there's some kind of respect still to be had in sports. Surprisingly enough, this has been the story of the week in the middle of the NBA playoffs.